Hey, Carol, those subscribers are really making a difference.
Yes, they are. I got the bill from Buzzsprout, our host, and it goes down every time a new subscriber joins on. So we really appreciate that. It makes the bill much, much smaller.
Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you. And Dee, we have a lot to go over today. Let's get started on this episode. Welcome to the Garden Angelist, where we talk about flowers, veggies, and all the best dirt. I'm Carol Michael from Indianapolis, Indiana, where I have a suburban garden measured in square feet. It's about a third of an acre.
And I'm Dee Nash from Guthrie, Oklahoma, where I garden on several acres out in the country.
We call ourselves Garden Angelists because we are evangelists for gardening. We love gardening and we want others to love it too.
Yes, we do. And we aren't afraid to spill the beans and tell all of our gardening secrets, the good, the bad, and even the ugly. But that's enough of who, what, when, where. Let's move on to this week's episode. Good morning, Carol. What a week it has been.
It has been. It went from summer till yesterday. It's like, oh, spring is back.
Yeah, we had a little touch of almost winter too. So we've had high summer, winter. It's just like bouncing all over the place.
Yes, it was kind of wintry yesterday. And my youngest sister texted me and said, do we have to do anything to cover the plants because of snow? And I'm like, no, because it's going to just be flurries.
Right. And if you had gotten any extra snow, then you would have gotten some insulation for the plants.
It was
the snow level.
It wasn't going to snow that much.
Not that much. Okay.
No.
So tell me what you did in your garden last week.
So I mowed, I sowed, I cut back stuff. I potted stuff up. I really, I looked back and I thought, oh, I really got a lot done. So I did sow seeds for 4 more kinds of zinnias. Cause remember zinnia angustifolia, the little tiny ones. So I sowed, half a flat each of those. And then some profusion and another one called Zahara, both yellow. I had a mood last winter to have all yellow zinnias out front. So these all yellow. And you know what? I looked at the packets. I'm thinking, I bought packets and it said there were 10 seeds in each packet. And by golly, there was just 10 seeds in each packet.
Wow, those are small packets of seed.
Exactly. So the stalks that I sowed, that came up gangbusters, I potted some of those up regular style. And then I thought, well, I have so many of these. So I threw some in an empty container in the sun, so an empty container in the shade. And I thought, well, let's see what grows.
Yeah, why not? And
then, I took my sister to the greenhouse. I threatened her that she could not go into the house with all the vegetable plants and the tender annuals. She could not. She's very good. And we bought some perennials mostly. We bought some decorative items. I'll go over that in another episode. But
yeah.
And then I walked by celery. And the next thing I know, it's like, Dee, I'm growing celery in my garden.
Okay.
So a listener named Mandy over in Ohio had written that she grows celery. She starts hers from seed in February, which I did not do. I bought plants at the greenhouse last week. She says they take a lot of water. And what she does is just keep taking stalks off as she needs them. So I thought, well, I'll try it. Why not?
Yeah.
So
there you go.
And I cut back dead stuff. I planted some new echinacea called Salmon in the pink garden. They had it at the greenhouse. I couldn't resist. It's like white with pink edges on the petals.
Petals?
Yes.
I wouldn't have been able to resist that either. I'm glad it's not here because I've had enough stuff not to resist. And in my world. Hey, I have a question about the sun coral candy coleus. Did you say something about that when I was stretching?
I did not. I skipped over that completely. Okay. The sun coral candy and the flama orange celosia, I have potted those up as well.
The slowest plant I have ever grown is that sun coral candy coleus. Mine are like, I'm showing you, they're about that big. And for those who can't see, they're about a half an inch. And they're potted up. They're ready to get bigger. I hope they grow faster now that it's mostly warmed up. And then I grew that Flamma Orange Celosia last year, and I loved it. Loved it. Loved it. Thought it was beautiful.
Well, I have potted up enough to have 12 of those. And then also the sun coral candy coleus, the seeds were pelleted.
Yeah.
But there must have been multiple seeds in a pellet because I sowed 6 and I ended up with like a dozen plants.
Yeah, me too.
And mine are very tiny. So I just potted them up and like hope for the best.
Yeah.
But the big news is, Dee, I dug up spring beauties, Claytonia virginica. I wrote a blog post about it to see if they would take in my garden because
I love that post you wrote.
they're like a weed everywhere where like you have a wooded lot and kind of transitions to lawn. That's the sweet spot for them. And I've wanted to get them forever. And anyway, I'll put the blog post up there so people could read all about those spring beauties.
Spring beauties. So you want to hear what's happening in my garden?
Of course I do, Dee. I've gone
Carol,
on and on and on.
Carol, it's go time. It's go time, go time, go time. You know, there's that small window between freeze and summer. And I'm right there. So go. That's right. I planted out all my pots on my back deck, except one. I've got one left, but I still haven't planted out my tomatoes and peppers. I'm going to do that this week. We had a low of 39 degrees on Sunday. Now it only popped down and then popped back up because no damage anywhere. Right.
That is good.
Nothing.
That is good.
But it looks like this weekend we're supposed to have more cool weather. We will see. We're supposed to also maybe get some rain. We will see. And Bill and I installed the drip irrigation in the cut flower beds. I'm very proud of us. Made a huge difference. Yay. I'm not having to water all that by hand right now. And remember last year when we repaired those soaker hoses 9 times?
Well, I didn't keep a count, but if 9 is what you said, I remember that you were constantly repairing them.
Oh my gosh, I have a whole bag of the cut apart repairs because Bill saved all of the little repair pieces.
Yes.
He's Bill, you know. Anyway, Groom's Irrigation came out. I'm giving a shout out to them because the guys who came out, they didn't get here till late that day. And bless their hearts, they called in someone else. And those 3 guys fixed all of my damaged, broken, melted irrigation. So I'm so grateful for that. And this is the time of year where I'm emptying out the greenhouse as fast as I can. I put all of my pelargoniums on their theater. Then I had a garden coaching client, which I am open for garden coaching. Some people think I'm not because of the fire, but I need to get away from here, you know? So I would love to garden coach you. And so then after I garden coached a lady in Tuttle, then I ran to the greenhouse in Norman because I was south. And I noticed that 2 very fancy pelargoniums jumped into my cart.
And the rule is, if a plant jumps into your cart,
it stays.
You must buy it and take it home.
And that's the rule. I did. They're so pretty and so healthy. I took those home. And also I found some cool new petunias and some interspecific hybrids, just interesting things that they had that nobody else has. I really went there to look for shrubs because I need to replace 3 hydrangeas, a Japanese maple, an Ogon spirea, and a Nandina for sure. Those are for sure things that need to be replaced because I've looked at them and they're just dead as doornails. Let's see. I think that's about it. I'm just working my little tail feathers off. That's all.
Well, we can relax and breathe because it's gotten cool again. And
lucky you.
But I had some fancy pelargoniums that I put in the garage. And they looked pretty good about 2 months ago. And I probably should have given them some water then, but they don't look so good now. But I pulled them out and put them on the back patio and I gave them some water. I'm like, either you're going to sprout or not. But
feed them some fertilizer. Put some fertilizer in there. And I bet they come back.
We'll see. They look
pretty dead.
Pretty dead. But
whoopsie.
Whoops. Anyway, I would love to see your fancy pelargoniums sometime. You'll have to post about your pelargonium theater. That would be lovely.
I love my pelargonium theater. Okay, your turn. Do the quote.
I've always felt that having a garden is like having a good and loyal friend. C.Z. Guest.
I agree. And gardening friends are really good friends too.
Yes.
So we decided this week we were going to talk about salvias because, why not talk about the largest?
Well, listeners, let me
genus?
just say, Dee decided we were going to talk about salvias because you thought she was obsessed with pelargoniums, and then you thought, oh, she's obsessed with daylilies. No, it's roses. No. She's obsessed with salvias.
Yes, but what goes better with daylilies and roses than salvias?
I don't know.
Not much,
I'll have to
right?
think about that. I guess.
Well, think about this.
You're justifying your obsession, and I'm good with that. Now,
there's so many. Well, here's the thing. So I met with this client and I said, you need to plant some plants around your roses. I said, we don't spray them anymore. We don't have to. That's why roses used to be all by themselves in beds. You need to think of roses as shrubs, right? Mm-hmm. And she goes, so are you going to tell me to plant lavender around them? And I said, absolutely not in Oklahoma, because the soil is usually too heavy for lavender. The reason I can grow lavender is because it's in a raised bed, it gets really good drainage. And even then I lose it sometimes. So
like a fire.
Salvias. Yeah. Well, a fire will just take out a whole section of it, which it did. That's another thing I got to fix. Salvias, I've decided in my garden this year is the year of the salvia. And there's a good reason why. There's a bunch of new ones out. And I'm also testing a bunch of them because I got some from Doom and Orange. They sent me some. And they're a bicolor salvia, which looks like it's part of the Farinaceae family. And I'm going to say right off the top of my head, I like Salvia farinaceae, and I suggest it more than any other salvia.
And Dee, let me pause right there.
Yeah.
Over your shoulder, Masha has just jumped up and gotten something out of a pot and is eating it.
That's okay.
And so I just wanted to alert you to this.
She's all right. That pot doesn't really have anything in it. It's okay.
It didn't look like it did. Okay. Where were we? Salvias.
So Salvia farinaceae, why would I like it more than other ones? And all of its cultivars?
I don't know.
You don't know, do you? Because I didn't put it in the notes. I can see you looking. I like it because it has blue-green foliage. It has really attractive blue-green foliage. It's got some of the most attractive salvia foliage out there. So indigo spires blue. Victoria, of course.
I grew Victoria last year.
Oh my gosh, I love Victoria. This new bicolor that Doom and Orange sent me, which I should look up, and I don't think I have it here. I took out some other ones that I did have. I took tags out and put notes on them, but I got that one, the bicolor, just the other day. I will get it for you, and you can put it in the newsletter, and then I can tell Doom and Orange I talked about their plants. Interestingly, they sent me some fuchsias, which I was like, fuchsias in Oklahoma, but these are supposed to be heat tolerant. We'll see. Anyway, back to salvias. That is my favorite class of all the salvias. My second favorite class is the ones that are, hold on, I'm looking at my notes real quick. The ones that are in the Love and Wishes ones. Love and Wishes, Wendy's Wish, Ember's Wish. Wendy's Wish was the first one. And now they've gone to all these other ones. And I have most of them. And they do really well.
They are perennial for you.
No, the Wish series is not perennial.
Okay, I was just clarifying that because
I either have to replace them each year, or if they are not patented, I take cuttings. Some of these are patented, some of them are not. There was something else I wanted to say about. So that group blooms later in summer when you need, and it has the really long, bloom spikes.
Yes.
And it's really good for hummingbirds. And it's also really good for bumblebees, and they pierce the side of it. So I really like those. And then probably next, I like Salvia leucantha. And I can't get enough of Salvia leucantha. And here's the thing, it is hardy in my garden most years. But I always take cuttings. That's Mexican bush sage. It's the one that starts blooming in late August and blooms all the way to frost. And everything loves it. So all the migrating, but it won't work in your garden.
No, it won't work.
It won't work there. I think in your garden, things like Salvia nemorosa would work.
Definitely does.
And there are some new ones, although I still love Caradonna. I think Caradonna is gorgeous. And I planted a new variety last year, which I wrote about on my blog. But there have been some other ones in the Nemorosa group, because remember, Salvia nemorosa was the All-American, the National Garden Bureau's plant of the year, like 2 years. Was it 2 years ago?
I think so.
Yeah. And that's when we got the pink ones. And so Proven Winners has some pink ones, which are really good. I got trial plants of them and they've just done great. And I moved them actually this year out of the cutting garden and stuck them on my garage border. There's also Henry Duhlberg and then Alice Duhlberg and then Alice Duhlberg. And I don't know which one they fall into, but I'm going to look it up while we're talking.
Well, I was going to say for me, I put salvias in two groups. There are the perennial salvias that I have. Mm-hmm. And Proven Winners, I have the Color Spires Pink Dawn that I planted last year. And it rebloomed quite nicely. And I usually had a bloom spike or two most of the summer. I have May Nights, which is a very old variety. And I say that because in 1997, the Perennial Plant Association had it be the Perennial Plant of the Year in 97.
I hate that one.
Well, I have it. And I would say that in the, how many years since 1997? 25, 26?
Lots.
So many other good salvias have come along, but I still have May Nights. And High Country Gardens, I looked it up. They said it blooms for 4 weeks. I'm thinking, that's a short 4 weeks. I'm going to have to check that.
Yeah, it's not 4 weeks. It's not 4 weeks. And here's the thing about May Night and East Friesland, which are in the same class, same group. They have those ugly, ratty looking leaves.
Yep.
And they die out in the middle. And they don't bloom very long. So I always tell people, even though that's very, very popular and you'll see it at Lowe's, don't buy that one. Buy one of the other newer ones because they're just so good. I finally got rid of May Night and East Friesland, both out of my garden.
I'm going to watch mine really closely. And this may be its last year, especially because, like you said, a lot of newer varieties. And I'm not one to pitch out an old variety just because the new one. Yes, I am. Just kidding. Yes, I do have one. I think you have. Do you have Madeline?
I do not have Madeline.
That one, according to perennials.com, was bred and introduced by Pete Oldoff. And it has blue petals with a white lip. And just for the name alone, you should grow it.
I should, because that's the name of my granddaughter.
Now, I don't see it for sale very often. And I just, by chance, saw one at a garden center up on the north side one day. I was up there late and there's like one bloom spike and I'm like, ooh, that's pretty. So I bought it and it blooms nicely every year.
I'm looking it up.
You're going to want it.
Salvia. Oh, I've grown this one before. Yes.
There you go.
I grew it a long, long time ago, and it is a pretty salvia. And it's a Dutch selection. And I'm trying to figure out.
I don't know where you would buy it because when I looked it up, like one nursery that's, was listed, they didn't actually have it on their list. So I think it's kind of hard to come by now.
I think it is too. Oh, okay. So it doesn't tell you in this particular one. It says perennial sage 4 through 9. So I don't know which one. I bet you salvia. I bet you that there's one that's called Flowers by the Sea. That's a nursery. I bet they have it for sure.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, they have all of them.
So I looked up Henry Duhlberg. It is part of the Farinaceae class, which I thought it was. And then I think there's Alice Duhlberg. I think that's her name. Please don't write and correct me if I got it wrong, because I'm just doing it off the top of my head. But she's white. And remember, we talked about her a couple of episodes ago because I bought it down in Texas. I don't remember.
I sort of remember, but I'd have to go back and listen to the episode.
Yeah, so would I, because you know what? Every day's a new day. But Henry Duhlberg does really well here too. It's only hardiness to zone 7, as with most of the Farinaceae type.
Which is why Carol isn't growing them.
All of mine came back this year. I did lose my salvia leucantha, my Mexican bush sage, from the fire. It was coming back, and the fire just happened to hit that spot, and it just burned it up, because these are sages, and sages have oil in their leaves. And so they burn just like any other kind of an herb that has oil in its leaves. Fortunately, I had taken several cuttings, and I planted one at each end of that bed, because if I don't have that salvia leucantha with my pink muhly grass, I would be sad.
That
That's
would be
one of my
sad.
favorite things. So salvias, you can't beat them. And the Nemorosa class, Pink Profusion was the one I was trying to think of from Proven Winners, and it's just been great. I mean, it blooms, and I chop it off, and it has another whole bloom session. Chop it off. It does it at least 3 or 4 times.
Because if you're going to put the name profusion on a flower, it better have a profusion of blooms, not just one and done.
And then the other plant, another plant that's in a different group, and gosh, we haven't even gotten to some of the other ones that are. Okay. Well, anyway, so Golden Delicious Pineapple Sage. Love, love, love this plant. It doesn't bloom until late summer. It is not hardy here, so it wouldn't be hardy at your place. But it does great. It does great in a pot. It does great anywhere you plant something where you don't get to water it every single day. And that's around my red fountain. And I usually have it around there, although this time I've got blue sages. Now, can I tell you about the 3 new ones I bought this year? I have tags for them.
Yes, I would like to hear about them, because maybe you will entice me to go look. Now, are these going to be what I would consider annuals?
Some of them are annuals, and some of them are. So let me look at all of them and make sure. I think this one is.
Because my salvias fall into 2 classes: perennials.
I know.
And annuals. And when it comes to annuals, I go down to the greenhouse and I buy something like Rockin' Blue Sage Shoes, which she will have. It's a Proven Winners one
too.
Yes.
Yeah.
So tell me about these 3 new ones, and then let's wrap up salvias with that.
Okay. These are 3 new ones. These are the 3 new ones I bought that are annual.
Okay.
Okay. All of them are annuals. Saucy Red Salvia. And Saucy Red Salvia is a really beautiful, brightly colored. I put it in the center of a pot. It gets very large, 24 to 36 inches. And it is this shade of red, Carol.
That is a very good red. But if you're going to be called saucy red, you better be red.
You should be red, right? Truly red. And it's got that dark green foliage, that those certain salvias have.
Like Christmas.
Like Christmas. And then this one is called Purple and Bloom. And Purple and Bloom, I don't think this is the best picture for it, because I saw it blooming in my pot. And boy, those calyxes are dark purple, but the bloom is like a hot pinky red. I don't know any other way to describe it.
That sounds interesting.
It's supposed to get 40 to 48 inches in height. We will see.
That is a big salvia.
Yeah, we're going to see what happens. It does not come back. So what fun, though, right? And then the other one, this one is from Doom and Orange, and it is called Hummingbird Falls. They did not send it to me. I bought it. I found it at Davison's Nursery on Memorial, which that's important because the Davison brothers carry different things. This one is one that falls out of a pot. So it's going to have a more lateral look, and it'd be good in a hanging basket. Those are my 3 new ones. And I also ordered 3, but we won't talk about them today. We can talk about those when they come in. So exciting. So exciting.
It is exciting. So here's the thing. So, my new thing is I'm going to look in The Story of Flowers by Noel Kingsbury that we love.
Yep.
And I thought, I wonder what he says about salvias and sage.
I wonder what he does. Did you look?
Nothing. There's nothing.
How odd.
I couldn't find it in the index. I kind of paged through and I'm like, he doesn't have anything on salvia or sage. I mean, they're old-fashioned flowers. Sages are especially. So maybe they were he considered them more herbs, and, he had to cut it off somewhere.
Well, and also doesn't he live kind of up north, and maybe they aren't as important up there to him as they are here. Oh, look, and that's Bodacious Hummingbird Falls. I actually made really good notes on Saturday. So here are the other ones that I bought, and the one that I got from Doom and Orange. Salvia Icon Blue Bicolor. That's my trial plant. Okay. And then Salvia Blue by You, which is a Nemorosa variety, and it's a Proven Winners one. and I think it's got a cool name. And then I already talked about Purple and Bloom, which is a Garanitica, which means big, gargantuan. And then the Hummingbird Falls. And that one that's saucy red is a Splendens, which is the ones that are smaller, usually.
Right.
Stiffer, the old-fashioned salvias we used to get. Like Hot Lips, I think, is a salvia Splendens. Okay.
Well, here are two things. Here's something of interest, maybe only to me, and a request. When my aunt was alive a long time ago, I was writing her about my grandparents' garden. This is the one that was in Indianapolis. And she said that her father, who died when she was like 12 and my mom was like 5, she said his favorite flower was the red salvia, just the plain old basic red salvia.
Yeah, which would have been a Splendens.
Annual.
Those were really popular.
And then the request part of this is, Dee, you must take your enthusiasm, put hands to keyboard, and write a blog post about these salvias, because it would be so much easier for me to just link to a lovely blog post about salvias than to list some of these. I will list some of these, but I'll never get them all.
No, I'll get it. I'll do it today.
And then we can retroactively add it to the show notes, so you don't have to have it done.
Good thing, because I got stuff to do today.
Do the next quote.
Every time you pick a daffodil or gather some violets on some hill or touch a leaf or see a tree, it's all God whispering, "This is me." Helen Steiner Rice, who was the hottest Christian writer of the 70s, right?
Well, a poet too. Yes.
She was amazing.
You would go into a Hallmark store and there were her quotes all over everything.
Yeah, they were. It was nice to see her quote. So we're going to talk today in our vegetables about potatoes because, well, I still don't have mine planted. I mean, I had this fire and I've been a little busy. So I'm going to plant them today.
Selenium tuberosum.
Mm-hmm.
That's the botanical name. I just thought I'd throw that out there.
So what made us partly do this is that I was watching Gardener's World and they were talking about earlies versus mids versus late potatoes because, well, they live in England, so they can do 3 potato crops. I live in Oklahoma. I do one.
I do one.
If I get the potatoes in March or April in this case, which is way too late, it'll be a miracle if I get baby potatoes, which that's all I want to eat anyway.
So a couple of things, though. People are surprised, but potatoes are usually planted 2 to 3 weeks before your last frost.
Right.
So I'm right in the window. This would be like early planting, but I did go to Menards. You've got to get a Menards in Oklahoma. They're fun.
They sound fun.
I bought bags of 3 kinds of potatoes, 3 fingerlings. I bought one called French fingerling, one called Russian banana. Speaking of Russian banana, I just saw you shake your finger at that, Masha, because she's doing some.
She was getting into the water container because she is a Russian banana. She is in full toddler stage, and gosh, she's a pain.
Yeah, and my 3rd fingerling is called Pinto Gold. Now, I selected these 3 varieties, Dee. I'd like to say I had done careful research. What are the best varieties? But basically, I didn't. I went and I bought what they had.
Yeah, I ordered mine, and I already talked about them in a previous podcast, and they're going in the pots today. And in fact, Masha is chewing on one of the pots, one of the potato pots. See my potato pots? I finally got them in.
Very nice.
I'm going
to put all mine in
my flap.
Yeah, that's nice.
We'll see what happens.
I'm putting all mine in smart pots like I did last year, and it actually works out pretty well. And we're going to talk about smart pots in our dirt. But I tell people the best thing about putting them in a smart pot or really any container is you just empty the pot to harvest. And, you can kind of dig around, or if there's like a trap door, you can go in from the side and pull some out. Try to leave the plants intact. But I do like growing potatoes because they give us the word chit.
Which sounds like you're saying something bad, but you're not.
Well, you chit your potatoes before you plant them. You kind of put them in a sunny windowsill, and you want 1 or 2 little sprouts. Any others you should break off, but you want a little sprout. It's called chitting. So I was looking in online dictionaries.
Explain why you want to break off all but 1 or 2, because it's important.
Because you want just 1 or 2 strong stems to grow and grow that plant. You don't want it to,
You want it to put more
be all
emphasis
crazy.
into making more potatoes, not making
Exactly.
more foliage. Yeah.
Exactly. So when you go online, nobody has the definition of chit where, you to cause something to sprout. No, nobody. It's a
Funny.
child, or it's like a receipt or something like that. And I thought, this is why I keep my dictionaries. And I have one from 1968, which is 6 inches deep.
Good Lord.
And it does have the correct definition it's got several definitions of chit, but it does say one of the definitions is, causing something to sprout.
And the reason they have you plant them because earlier than your last freeze date, unless you're like me and you're running late, is because they have a long growing season. That's part of the reason.
Yes, they do.
And they like cold weather to sprout. Fortunately, mine are all sprouted because they stayed in the box and they all sprouted. And so now they're sitting in my pantry and they're going in these pots today. Oh, and when you plant them in the pots, did you say the thing about the soil and building it up?
I didn't. So you bury them like in the bottom of the pot, and then you don't put all the soil in at once. As they grow, you just keep adding soil and keep burying that stem. And they are. I'm assuming that stem grows roots underground like a tomato, which they're related to, and from that you get more potatoes. So you just kind of keep adding soil.
Mm-hmm.
So as long as
it gives them more nutrition as they grow too, because you know then they get more nutrition, which they're a heavy feeder. Potatoes are. So you're going to talk about Clancy now?
Yes. Clancy is a hybrid tomato. Listen to me. Hybrid potato. And All America Selections in 2019 gave it a big gold star. I think it was a gold star. Anyway, you can grow them from seed, and they sent me seeds, and I haven't really tried them. And I thought, it's probably too late. But when I looked on Botanical Interest, who has the Clancy seeds, I just looked. If you sow them 4 to 6 weeks before the last frost, I thought, let's see. I don't know what today is, the 17th.
Yes, it is.
Oh, it's one of my nephew's birthdays. Happy birthday to one of my nephews. I think I could still try if I hurry. And I thought, maybe I will. Maybe I will start some seeds inside for Clancy and just give it a whirl. Because even though I thought in the winter, I'm just going to do things normal this year, I'm not going to, tried and true. Here I am experimenting with all kinds of stuff. So I think I'll try it.
I like it. You want to do that? Are we done talking about potatoes?
Can we ever be done talking about potatoes, Dee?
I think so.
Okay, well, let's call it done, and I'll do a quote. Mine is the sunlight, mine is the morning. Born of the one light, Eden saw play. Praise with elation, praise every morning. God's recreation of the new day. Eleanor Farjeon.
Yeah.
Farjeon. Farjeon.
We sing
it's like
that hymn in
church.
church. Yeah, I love that. It's beautiful. So on our bookshelf is the Wild Bee Handbook, The Amazing Lives of Our Wild Species and How to Help Them Thrive by Sarah Wyndham Lewis. And this book came to us through an English publisher.
Hardy Grant.
Yeah, Hardy Grant. They're very nice. And they make these beautiful little books. And I have their book on planting for honeybees, the Book of Bees, and now I have this one. And so I'm not going to do honeybees anymore. And I know a lot of people are really sad about that. I'm sorry. I just don't have the time or energy to devote to
You just
them.
don't have the bandwidth for the honeybees anymore.
I don't, because I've got to decide to narrow things down. And I care about pollinators of all types. So when they offered to send me the Wild Bee Handbook, I said, you betcha. Even though it is set, if it were a novel, it is set in Great Britain. And Great Britain has the cutest bees in the whole wide world, in my opinion, including the red-tailed bumblebee. I'm going to show this to Carol. We do not have this here.
Oh, that is a cute bee. Have you ever pet a bumblebee?
I have petted a bumblebee. Gail Alkelberger got me to pet a bumblebee when they were asleep. And you know what? They let you pet them. They don't even know.
So it's interesting because she says there are 20,000 species of bees worldwide. And here in the United States, we have 4,000 species, and Europe has 2,000, and United Kingdom has 275.
Yeah, they don't have very many. And in fact, this is an interesting fact, not from the book, but they had a real problem with their bumblebees. And they asked us to send over some, because we do overlap on some bees, some bumblebees. They asked us to send over some queens to help them and to build back up their supply. But everything over in England is diminutive and cute. Like their robins are littler than ours. Most of their bumblebees are littler. I don't know why. I just know they're super cute. And you go along, oh, isn't that the cutest little bee? And then over here, we have those great big carpenter bees, which technically aren't bumblebees. And they're just big, lumbering, giant creatures. But
I saw some this week. Yeah. I saw some on Saturday. I think it was Saturday or Friday. I saw some lumbering. I'm like, oh my gosh.
They're already here. Yeah, the queens are out, I've noticed. And I can always tell when the Baptisia is going to bloom, because the queen carpenter bees come and take all the nectar from it and the pollen. So anyway, it's an interesting illustrated guide that introduces you to common wild bees you might find in your garden if you live in England. And that is my only caveat about it, is that some of the bees don't overlap. However, all of her information about how to support bumblebees and also honeybees are in here too, because European honeybees are native in Europe. All the part about gardening for the bees, that's all very helpful.
Yeah, wherever you live. Yes.
The clovers, all that kind of stuff. Some bees are more long-tongued and some bees are more short-tongued. And you need to know that when you're planting things. That was one of the things I learned when I had honeybees. Honeybees have short tongues, and almost everything in my garden is made for long-tongued pollinators. And it caused some problems that first season. So now I have a mix of all kinds of things.
Well, that is good. And it's kind of like, and I don't shy away from reading books that were written by British garden writers. First of all, they're excellent. They're well written and all that stuff. So I think it's worth getting this book, the Wild Bee Handbook.
I do too. Well, because the gardening information is really good. And also you can learn more about the bumblebees and the other type of bees you see on Gardener's World, because you see all of these bees on there. And they have a real problem right now, just like we do. All of our pollinators are declining. And so the more we can do to help pollinators through gardening, as Doug Ptolemy says, we're their last best hope.
There you go.
And if we're pollinators' last best hope, we're also birds' last best hope.
That is true. So that is the Wild Bee Handbook, The Amazing Lives of Our Wild Species and How to Help Them Thrive, by Sarah Wyndham Lewis. Very nice.
And it's also a very, very beautiful book.
Well, yeah, the cover is beautiful. And, you talked about all their bees are cute and beautiful compared to some of our ugly monsters over here, but
they're just bigger over here. And some of the plants won't quite relate either, but there's usually an American version of the same plant. So we should do it. Do you want to do the next quote before we go into our dirt?
Go for it.
Okay. There's one good thing about this world. There are always sure to be more springs. That's by L.M. Montgomery.
I didn't look up any of these authors. I think I know.
Well, L.M. Montgomery wrote Anna.
Yeah, I know that one, but I'm thinking, and Helen Steiner Rice, but I didn't look these up. I'm getting lazy as things get busy out in the garden. I need to snap it up.
Well, the busier we are in the garden, the less prep we do. That's just the truth. Okay, so we are going to give a big, happy shout out to Smart Pots and talk a little bit about them.
Yes.
Smart Pots are made in Oklahoma. They're made in Oklahoma City, actually. And we wanted to talk about the science and technology behind them and when we first saw them. I think I first saw them at the GWA Symposium in Oklahoma City in 2007. When did you first see them?
Actually, it was much later for me. I may have seen them earlier, but I became acutely aware of them when GardenCom went to Quebec City. There were smart pots planted everywhere, just full of beautiful vegetables and flowers. And you're like, wow. I mean, on the
yeah.
steps of the Parliament, I think they had some. They were beautiful.
Yeah, in fact, we used those pictures in my book. You let me use them.
And I did.
Wonderful pictures. Yes, you did.
Oh.
Those were pictures that you supplied because I didn't go with you to Quebec City. I wish I had, but I had kids graduating from everywhere that year. Okay, so they actually started in 1984, which I looked up on their website. I didn't realize it was that long ago. And the idea behind them is they're made of a fabric, and the fabric is really great at being porous. So it's hard to overwater them.
Yes.
And also, when the roots hit the side of the pot, they split and make new roots instead of doing the roundy round thing that they do in the bottom of plastic pots. And it all has to do with aeration. And there have been lots of companies that have copied their designs. But the original Smart Pot is wonderful, and they now come in colors, not in the biggest sizes, but in some of the sizes, and you can order them directly off of their website. And one of the reasons I'm giving a shout out is you contacted them after my fire, and Heather from Smart Pots, she came and brought me mini pots to replace some of mine. And I'm so grateful because pots aren't cheap. Whatever pots you buy, they're very expensive, and potting soil isn't cheap either. So Smart Pots are wonderful. And I can attest to the fact that they do make new roots, that when the roots split along the edge, because I've grown my tomatoes and my peppers and my Smart Pots for, gosh, how many seasons is it now? This will be my 4th year, I think.
Yeah. And we should
Best
say
thing I ever did.
The Smart Pots, I mean, they're not going to last forever, but they're going to last a long, long time.
Mine were in their 4th year.
And
if they hadn't burned up, which the fire just came down, and there were some leaves in that spot on the driveway, and that's why they all caught fire. I just hadn't gotten all the leaves out of there yet, and they might have caught fire anyway. So they're just really great to grow vegetables. You can grow other things in them too. They now have really small pots compared to their other ones that are for house plants.
Yeah, we talked about that. You would want to put that. Those would
on
be
a saucer.
Yeah, any house plant needs to be on a saucer, but I would not shy away from them. In fact, I think next winter, if my African blue basil, and I have 3 plants that are just dying to go outside, I mean, I need to trim them back again.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if I should try to root those and grow those in Smart Pots next year, because I think I would get better root growth.
I think you would too.
So
I do. I think they'd do great. So wonderful, wonderful fabric pots. I love the ones with handles because they're easier to move around.
They are,
because they're heavy, even though the pots are lightweight. By the time you put all that soil in there, I grow most of my stuff in 20-gallon pots. And
that's what I have.
20 gallons of soil are heavy, and the handles are nice. So I really like the orange and purple pots. They're cute. I'll grow something in those this year.
So we'll put a link. We'll put a link to Smart Pots. Big shout out to them. Fabric pots are great for so many different things, and just go to get the good ones. Don't cheap out on yourself.
Yeah, and they're harder to find on Amazon now, so just go to their website, and they ship really quickly, and they've done really, really well. And so used to be you could only get black, but now you can get black, green, lots of different colors.
Love the avocado green color, the dark green. That's the ones I like the best.
That is such a surprise.
Okay, I'm going to do a quote before I suppose the best kind of spring morning is the best weather God has to offer. Dodie Smith.
Yay, Dodie. Go Dodie. So let's spell DOTY, which is kind of funny.
Let's talk about the rabbit holes.
Rabbit holes. You do your rabbit hole, and then I'll do mine.
So I've gone back, and I am actually researching a couple of Lost Ladies of Garden Writing that I wrote back about in 2011, 2012, 2013. Yesterday. And I'm spiffing up my information so I can repost about them and put them in the Lost Ladies of Garden Writing series. And people say, are you going to make that into a book? And I'm like, I think I'm officially saying that I want to put this into a book. So
I think you should. All the research you've done. Why not?
Yeah. And so I want to make it, I'm thinking about the approach that I'm going to take. And so that is my rabbit hole. And I'll probably be in that rabbit hole all summer until the next shiny plant comes along. Just kidding.
Yeah. Speaking of shiny plants,
Speaking of shiny plants, how about your rabbit hole, Dee? Let me guess, what would it have been? What would it have been?
I was looking up all of the salvias and all the different types and figuring out, because before I buy a salvia, this is the honest truth, I look at what species it's in, because I'm like, if it's a certain species, I don't want it.
I just look for the pretty.
You do not. Anyway, because I've had some duds and I don't want duds anymore.
Oh, nobody has time for duds in the garden. They must be evicted. Don't buy them. You do you should do research. We laugh, but
you really should. You really should.
Or just pick up.
And I look up stuff all
flower.
the time when I'm out in the greenhouse. I'm the person standing there with my cell phone looking up the plant, because you can look them up by their name, and usually the website of the hybridizer gives you all kinds of information. You can find out whether the plant was tissue culture, grown from seed, things like that. So that's what I was doing. And I remembered now that I also started Sirius Black from seed, and it's already out in the cutting garden and it's taking off. So I think it's a Farinaceae also. But have you noticed, well, maybe you haven't noticed, but Farinaceas in that species, there are some with really thick leaves and there are some with really thin leaves.
I have never spent that much time on salvias. And so we're down in the rabbit hole and suddenly we're talking about salvias again. It's like Dee's violas.
It's Dee's violas this week. I've also been looking at wildfires on YouTube, because there were a lot of people who were out spotting the wildfires, and I keep trying to find our barn when it burned down on, because I'm weird. No, I was writing that blog post about the wildfires, which we can link to. And I was trying to find it because my son saw it on TV. He saw it on Channel 9. I have not been able to find it yet, although it's been fascinating. I need to get off of it. And no, I'm not doing disaster stuff. It's just interesting to see my neighborhood and right by my neighborhood and how the fire came across. It's fascinating.
It is. But, and I would want to see that too. I would want to see what actually happened.
Yeah, it was eerie. I watched some raw footage of the News 9 helicopter, which was actually published by a news station in Florida, of all places. And I know the guy's voice, and so I knew it was him. And it was very interesting to see him and how he maneuvers for his shots. And I didn't see my barn. I did see my neighbor's house on fire, which was eerie and made me really sad because I love my neighbors. But it was fascinating to see how he frames shots when he makes decisions to come on air and how hard that is.
Yeah.
So there you go.
All right. Well, let's talk about what we're going to do this week. So in my garden, it has turned colder, which I'm thankful for, because I don't like to just jump right into it.
I like it when we have a long spring. It makes everything does better for the rest of the year if you have a long spring.
Right. So I am relaxing a bit. It's not as big a rush. I have more dead stuff to cut back. I'll tend to my seedlings. I need to mow. In fact, I almost thought about mowing yesterday, but it kind of like rained all day to get a third of an inch out there. And so, and also my nephew, I have a nephew that's graduating from college and he's going to go to graduate school in, I'll tell you what he's going to get his PhD in a minute, but he's got like 6 weeks where he can't really get a job, where his mom said, "Hey, Aunt Carol, you want to hire him to do some heavy lifting?" So I think I might make a list of stuff that he can do before he goes off to get his PhD in computational neuroscience. Yeah. I don't know what that is either.
I don't know what that is, but you know what I know? Good, strong back.
Yeah.
College kids, good, strong backs. And you know what? Use them. I tell my clients this all the time.
Yes. So I'm going to make a list of things that he can do and stuff that I know I want to do, but I just don't get around to it. It's like, oh, that's going to be a lot of work. I'm like, oh, well, for 6 weeks. But then she says, well, now I'm going to have him do stuff in my yard too. Like, okay. What are you doing in your garden this week?
I'm watching the weather because it's supposed to be really warm all week. And then we're supposed to have a cool down on Saturday, but it's not supposed to get that cold. So I'm probably going to go ahead and plant my tomatoes and peppers. I might make a Bustani run. Maybe. I haven't decided. And
that means listeners. That means yes.
I want a copper plant. I love copper plants.
What is copper plants?
I'll have to look it up. I don't remember what the genus is. It's a tropical plant. It looks really, really good in pots, and they have coppery leaves, and there's a whole group of them. So he carries like 3 different kinds or 4.
I wonder if Marianne Wilburn talks about that in Tropical Plants and How to Love Them, that great book.
It might be that she does. Anyway, they're great plants for Oklahoma in pots because they just love it in pots. And I need a centerpiece for one of my pots. That's a dumb reason to drive 45 minutes, but I can also get Mexican food that I can't get here. Okay, sorry, I got off on food. Anyway.
You should go. I'm just saying you should go.
I'm also hoping to get my split rail fence fixed this week. Luz and his crew are supposed to come out, and we bought all the fence posts, and that will improve the looks of things.
Yes, that would help. All right.
It'll help.
That is a lot.
And that's it.
So we want to thank everyone for listening to The Gardenangelists. I hope you've hit that subscribe button so you don't miss a single episode. We publish every Wednesday at 12 a.m. Eastern Time.
If you listen to us on Apple Podcasts, we'd love a 5-star review. It really does help us get noticed by others and makes that algorithm push us further up. Could you also share your podcast with your friends? Word of mouth is still the best way to get the word out there.
And be sure and check out our show notes for links for more information about today's topics, plus links to our own websites.
And go ahead and subscribe to our Substack newsletter because it has expanded links. It is The Gardenangelists at substack.com, and it is linked to in our show notes.
And if you want to help support us, use those affiliate links. If you buy something after clicking through on them, we earn a small commission and it costs you nothing. Or you can make a monthly subscription through Buzzsprout or a one-time donation through PayPal.
Or you can send us a check if you want to. Somebody asked this week. It was lovely to chat with all of you over the Garden Gate. Bye until next week.
Bye, everybody.